If I'm recalling correctly, I perhaps maybe got up at 9 in the morning, and I think after an hour, I moved into Dad's room from the spare room. And then I went into the kitchen area to get a cup of coffee and a sandwich, one of the sandwiches Dad made for me, with some special buns that had a lot of sesame seeds on them, which I happen to like quite a bit. I believe I got a research expansion, and then I used it. I put it here so I could ultimately put together the magical chess set. And now they're greater than the sum of their parts. Also, this Dorian Valor is now kind of paying for itself, since I'm now producing some Valorian guards. Here's my enchantments, my instants, and my summonings. This is a temporary item that expires in just 5 days. An easy way to keep your culture up is to put in some special roadways. This is the free footpath. And this is the simple trail that gives you 10 culture apiece. And then this is the cobbled road for 20. And I'm pretty close to getting the ornate street. I think I'm pretty close to researching it. Let's see. It's here, so I'm somewhat close. Thing is, I have to keep an eye on the provinces to make sure I make it to what's ultimately required. So with that in mind, I can worry less about the culture, though I ultimately don't have the gold necessary in order to upgrade the main hall, although I've had urges to get this premium culture building. But I've had thoughts of maybe saving the diamonds for ultimately a bigger and ultimately more expensive premium culture building. So, when I moved into Dad's room, I got my laptop, the charger for it, and the headphones. And then later I think I got this mouse again. And the best revenge is massive success. That's very good. They picked 4 as one of the lucky numbers. I watched a recent video some time ago on Real Life Lore about how 4 is considered an unlucky number in some Asian countries. I had an earlier dish of this with Szechuan wontons, but I ate that during the second half of my criminal law class because I couldn't exactly film the dinner during a class, an online class. In criminal law, today's lecture talked about the insanity defense. We dispelled some myths regarding the insanity defense. It's rarely used, only in about 1% of felony cases. When it's used, it's by defendants with a long history of mental illness and prior hospitalizations in mental institutions. So they're not faking it. And even then, they only succeed about a quarter of the time. And when they do, they don't walk. In fact, they often technically serve a longer sentence than they would have had they been found guilty and sentenced to prison. But that longer sentence is a civil confinement into a mental institution rather than a criminal confinement in either jail or prison. We also talked about some tests that show how various jurisdictions test for legal insanity. Legal insanity is not the same thing as mental impairment because there are the definition of legal insanity is generally being unable to tell right from wrong. Basically something that impairs either reason, volition, which is the same as willpower, or a combination of cognition and will. There are mental impairments such as autism, being a sociopath, and being a psychopath that would not meet standards of legal insanity. And I also gave the example of the early stages of Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. Following the lecture, in which I was placed into a breakaway group of what was supposed to be 3, but one member of the breakaway group kind of left quite suddenly, so it ended up being a breakaway group of 2. And I'm typically the only classmate nowadays who will follow the old, now unenforced rule of sharing video during the online lectures via Collaborate Ultra on Blackboard. So, yeah, I think the class and my breakaway group saw me eat during class. I made a decision to feature a scene with Dan Hamming right before what I think may ultimately be some kind of violent scene. I think the Uber driver styrofoam prop character will have some kind of weapon. Either quite possibly a sawed-off shotgun. And either that character or Caesar's father being injured when one of the group of three strangers sort of sneaks up behind the Uber driver, styrofoam prop character, and causes a sort of negligent discharge. Something like that. And that may ultimately be the idea that ends up being implemented. I stayed with a bit after this sort of class because after class I stayed on Collaborate Ultra for a bit, some time, to find out the professor I had for my adjudications process class that class got renamed. It's now something a professor for criminal law teaches. It took me some time to navigate this sort of system and find out the professor. Also at 11, I tried to join for my intermediate Spanish 1 class today, but the professor and the other students were a no-show. I have no idea, ultimately, if class got canceled today, Spanish class or whatnot, but at 4, I also tried to join my personnel committee meeting, but that was a no-show too. And this was following a sort of binge in which I, for the first time in quite a while, actually tried to earn badges on Congregate, and I had success with that, earning a series of medium badges and easy badges and one hard badge by sort of cheating on a puzzle game via a walkthrough. Though that was after successfully completing the first 7 levels. So I didn't completely miss out on the joy of that feeling in which you manage to figure out a puzzle I ate the other sandwich with sesame seeds around 12:30 in the afternoon.